just there for a moment. All right. Good morning again. How do you feel? Been loved on. You've gotten to love on. Getting to sing and stand and clap if you wanted to. I think that's a good enough service, don't you? But they pay me the big bucks to talk, so I'm going to talk. Our theme today, as we're looking at the whole overall year-long theme of creating a world that works for all, is the idea of using rose-colored glasses to view our life. Rose-colored glasses. Everybody know what that involves? You've heard this term before? We have a belief that says we believe in the eternal goodness of life. We believe in the eternal goodness of life. And the goodness is looking at spirit and seeing the good that's in spirit. So sometimes we get accused of having a Pollyanna attitude. Anybody here ever, be accused of that or hear that Pollyanna attitude? And it's not a compliment in some cases, right? Yeah, I saw a hand over there. Yeah, not a compliment. The silly thing is, in this actual story of Pollyanna, she transformed an entire town of grumps into an entire town of happy, loving people. Even her own aunt, who was making it real rough for her and had a really bad attitude, she transformed. Being a Pollyanna is a good thing. Are you willing to be a Pollyanna with me? Yes. Yeah. So she played a game called the Glad Game, which transformed the town. She invited other people to play it with her. And so the Glad Game is simply looking for the good in every situation. Looking for the good. Finding something good. She apparently wore a locket that had a little phrase, and this is from her father, that said, "When you look for the bad in mankind expecting to find it, you usually will." When you look for the bad in mankind expecting to find it, you surely will. The reverse of that is also true, isn't it? When we look for the good in humankind, we will surely find it. In the book that was attributed to Abraham Lincoln, it was actually just the author of the book who made it up. But Abraham Lincoln did say is that a person is about as happy as they make up their mind to be. A person is about as happy as they make up their mind to be. So most of us wake up in the morning, not most of us, but most people, not you guys, them, they, those out there, and sometimes me, wake up in the morning and we look at our life and the circumstances to help determine if I'm going to be happy today. Anybody know somebody who does that or has done that, or in a past lifetime you used to do that, right? We look at our circumstances to decide, am I going to be happy today, instead of simply deciding, I'm going to be happy today and let that affect my circumstances. I'm going to choose happiness today. I'm going to choose to see good today. I'm going to choose to live life that way, no matter what else is going on. Now, there's a whole lot of people, if you've noticed the media this week, there's a whole lot of people trying to convince you that life is not good this week, right? So they've got, candidates running for fear, and they've got people who are afraid of the candidates running for fear, and so there's a whole lot of fear being generated. Notice? Okay. What if we just stopped paying attention to that fear and started piercing through that veil and seeing the good within? Can we play the game of looking for the good in everything? In everything. So, in the story of Pollyanna, her aunt didn't make it easy for her. Her aunt really didn't want her. She got stuck with her because her parents had died. She didn't want her. The aunt was the rich, controlling, rather negative person in the town. I especially like the part where she used to like to tell the minister what to talk about. Oh, never do that. The aunt, at one point in time, stuck her in the attic. Didn't even give her a decent bedroom, just stuck her in a room in the attic. And she said, "I love this room. It's got a beautiful view out over all the grounds." Something good about it, right? Another point in time, she said, "I'm just going to feed you bread and milk, and you're going to have to sit down and eat with the servant Nancy." Okay? Really demeaning to her. And she goes, and her attitude was, "I love bread, I love milk, and I really like to get to know Nancy." Okay? You find something good in every single situation. What can we do with that? So I invite you to play that game this week. There's another set of glasses I'd like to invite us to look through, and that's what I call clear lenses, but they're more like almost an X-ray vision lens, a piercing through the veil of illusion, the veil of what looks like is around us. One of the quotes for this week's talk is, "There is only one life, the life of God." Okay? That's all that's going on here. There's a friend of mine, Edward Vilhune, the minister over in Santa Rosa, once gave a talk and said, either it's all God or it's not. There's no in between, right? And so where do we want to fall on that spectrum? Do we want to say, finally, yeah, it is all God? That's the only life it is. That's the only thing that is happening. So there is only one life, the life of God. It is all God. If it is all God, it must be good. The small g good, good and bad are labels that we humans use to categorize things. In reality, everything is God. When we see something as negative or bad, we are looking at it through one lens. We need to shift our perception to see it as good. The only thing between us and our good is our thoughts and beliefs. The only thing between us and our good is our thoughts and beliefs. So how many of you have had an experience that when it was happening, you judged it as bad? That later on you said, that was actually a good thing that happened to me. Okay? Most of us have had that circumstance and situation. And it's a wonderful warning. It's a wonderful, if we can remember that when we start to say, this is really bad, to step up our vision to there's the wonderful biblical phrase, lift up thine eyes to the hills. To lift up to a higher view and a higher viewpoint and a higher vision that is more expansive, more inclusive, and says, you know what, I know God is here in this, and I'm going to start to see with those eyes, with that perspective. So those are the lenses we're going to look through. I'm going to pierce the illusion of good-bad and see the fact that there's only God. Rumi has that wonderful poem that many of you know, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, or wrong thinking and right thinking, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of wrong thinking and right thinking, there's a field. I'll meet you there. And he says, when the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. A question when you were doing the love exercise. Did it matter if the person was a Democrat or Republican who you were loving on? Did you ask them? Did it matter if they were young or old? Male or female? If we'd have people of different races and colors in here, would that have mattered? Yeah? No, it doesn't matter. We just love. And we give and receive love as people. So, if we can start to approach our life with that, I'm just going to love you, even if you've forgotten. There's a few of us who, were in there trying to receive love kind of, like this. Because we've forgotten. We've forgotten, as I love Mary's prayer, it's like I'm going to say, yes, I'm open to receiving even more love. Because we all have some resistance, sometime to that. So I want us to look at circumstances. Circumstances are simply that which stands around us. The word literally means stand around. The circumstances that are the things that stand around us, who created those? We did. Either individually or collectively, we created those circumstances around us. And they're appearances. They're just appearances. They're effects of a cause that was put into place. They're effects of a cause that consciously or unconsciously we put into place. And the good news is, since they're effects, we can change them. We can change those effects, because if we work at the level of cause instead of at the level of effect. See, when I'm working at the level of effect, if I'm battling with the effects, Eddie Watkins has a wonderful song that talks about combing the mirror instead of my hair. If I want to see a change in my hair, I comb the mirror instead of my hair. Okay, that's what it's like when we're trying to deal with the world of effect instead of working at the level of cause, first cause within us. So when we fight effects, this is why Ernest Holmes says, be a people who are for something and against nothing. When we fight effects, we are simply giving power to the effect itself, instead of coming and releasing the power and going back to our cause. Our cause is when we start to remember the truth of who I and everyone else around me is. And then start to channel that God energy, that love energy, that good energy. So when we start to live from our authentic, loving, kind self, we spread that loving kindness out into the world. And the law is what you put out comes back to you, right? Returns to you. So what are we doing? Are we fighting effects, or are we putting out loving kindness? So circumstances that are created by consciousness. If we created them, we can create something new. My friend Edwene Gaines is a prosperity unity minister and a prosperity teacher. Always wanted for her life a southern antebellum mansion. She's from Alabama, and she grew up in the South, and she wanted one of those big mansions, and she finally manifested one for herself, and after a year realized that the mansion owned her rather than vice versa, right? And so as she said, I love her phraseology, I prayed that sucker into my life, I prayed that sucker right back out of my life. So just because you have a circumstance and you sit there and go, wow, somewhere I created that, doesn't mean you're stuck with it, doesn't mean you're stuck there. Pray it right back out of your life and pray in what you do want. All you've done is learn something new, right? Oh, that wasn't what I really wanted. It's more like this. You know? I've had practice wives that I prayed into my life, prayed back out of my life, and now I have the real one that I really do want. Because I agree with the team, Cynthia is an awesome person. Ernest Holmes says that 1 plus God is the majority. If I'm truly, truly living in that connection with Spirit, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, then I and that infinite presence are bigger than any circumstance around me. Any. Got that? Any. Got it? Yeah. Circumstance around me. Okay, not quite yet. I heard a couple people get it. Yes. Any circumstance, right? Yes. All right. There's the old phrase of don't tell God how big your problem is, tell your problem how big your God is. Okay? So we work in that consciousness. So take the time to get centered. Take the time to connect. There's 3 places I invite you to connect with. Number 1 is your heart. We had a wonderful connection, those who played with today, in connecting with our heart and connecting with our love. Did you feel that? You know, I know the teens do it for a longer period of time when they do it at camp. And there are people crying by the time you've had about 15 minutes of just being loved on. You know, and if we had had enough time, we'd have just, kept on doing that and then started passing out Kleenex. Connect with your heart. Take that energy, take that, what you experience, and remember that, and allow it to expand. I love, again, Mary's prayer. I'm going to expand how much love I receive. Secondly, connect with the earth. We live on this beautiful planet with this beautiful mother. Connect with that earth. Take the time. Sometimes we get so busy we don't even notice it, right? Take the time to hug a tree, to just be aware of the ground, to just be aware of the earth that we're on. And the third one is connect with Spirit. Connect with that infinite presence that is the source of all life, including yours and mine. Connect with that. Take the time to do that. If you're stuck with a problem, if you're stuck with a situation, ask. Ask that infinite wisdom, show me the good in this. Show me the good. I can't see it right now. Besides me, anybody else ever not be able to see the good in the situation at the moment? Okay? Show it to me. Help me to see it. So our spiritual practice this week, 3 things. Number 1, play the glad game. Find something good in every circumstance. And if you want to, share it with some friends of yours. Hey, let's play the glad game together. Cher, do you want to play the glad game with me together? Yeah. That's how easy it is. Play that glad game. Find good in every circumstance, no matter how challenging. Second spiritual practice, see through the eyes of the divine. See with your divine eyes. See with that clear lens that pierces through the appearance and looks to cause and starts to play with that cause, starts to work that cause. And finally, connect. Connect with your heart, connect with the earth, connect with Spirit, and then love from that connected place. So are you willing to play with that this week? Those 3 spiritual practices. We're going to play the glad game. We're going to see through God's eyes so we see, pierce through all the stuff and see the real truth. And finally, we're going to connect and then love from that connected place. We good this week for that? Great. You will transform the world. Let me say it again. You will transform the world. You have no idea when you love somebody where that ripples out to. You have no idea. None of us have any idea. But we're all completely interconnected. The Hindus have a wonderful thing called the net of Indra. I talked about that earlier this year. That shows all of us as interconnected jewels in the consciousness of the universe. Totally connected together. So when I am more loving, everybody throughout that net experiences more love. Right? So I invite you to be that presence, because in case you haven't noticed, the world could really use some of that this week. Yes? Yeah. So I invite you to be the light. Instead of looking at that world and saying, wow, that world is really messed up out there, to say, you know what, that's the circumstance. I am going to be the light that ripples throughout all this world. And I know that there are others. You know, there's over 100 religious science churches right now this year working on this theme of creating a world that works for all. That's a whole lot of people just in our circle that are working on this theme. We ripple that energy out. Okay? So we're good? We're good for that? We're going to play with that? All right. You're going to bless the world and you're going to bless yourself. Let's move into prayer. Sorry, I don't have a closing quote this weekend. I surprised Judy. And so, we open to that infinite presence, that love, that good, that wisdom, that power that is greater than all the other stuff. We open to that. We recognize that that life, that one life, that life that we call God, we call it the Tao, we call it Buddha mind, we call it Vishnu, we call it Allah, we call it Adonai, we call it all these different names, Spirit, Father, Mother, God, all these different names. It is beyond, it includes and is beyond all those names. That infinite presence is all that there is. It's the only thing happening in this universe. And we recognize that because it is all there is, each of us is one of that infinite presence right here, right now. Each and every person on this planet, each and every being on this planet, and the planet itself, and the galaxy and all the galaxies are one of this infinite presence at the micro and macro levels. Whether we know it or not, whether we're ignorant of it or not, as the reading said, we still are one of this infinite presence. And so I speak my word that we allow that connection, that awareness, that loving presence to move through each of us. We are each individualizations of that life. And so in our own unique individual way, we love this week. We see good this week where we may not have ever seen it before. We open our eyes, we open our hearts, we open our minds, we open our whole beings to Spirit. We allow that Spirit to love through us. Even when we don't know how, we simply allow Spirit to love through us into every circumstance, every person in our lives. We are beacons of light. We are beacons of love. And we bless the world with this light and with this love. And for each person who's saying yes to this, for each person who is practicing this week, engaging with this week, to whatever small or great extent, I'm so grateful because each of us shifts the world, shifts the consciousness of this world with our love and with our light. And so out of that gratitude, I release this word into what we call the law, the process of creation, the process of that word becoming manifest into form, knowing that it does so. We affirm that together by simply saying, and so it is. Thank you.